Welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live show with live people. It's live show Thursday. I'm going to work in Daydreams, a colour book illustrated by Hanna Karlzon, and I'm going to be working on the fox, the little pretty fox curled up with all the flowers on her back. And I'm going to work with Derwent pastel pencils, but I'm going to use them in a really easy way in a colour book. So I can use pastel pencils for really complicated, very long 10-12 hour pages to get a little bit of a realism going using a blending tool. But sometimes if your hands aren't very well or for speed, you could use the pastels as a watercolour in a colour book. Now they're technically not a watercolour, but they behave like a watercolour. So I can scratch colour. There is quite a few videos that I've done before. One of the pages was the little cat, which is in here somewhere. It's probably... So this particular page was used the pastel pencil, scratching a little bit of colour and then manipulating it with a brush. Now I normally use a rigger, but I'm going to be using the Derwent #1 brush because it's the smallest one that I found, and it's also the one that gives out the least amount of water. So if you kind of squish it round like this, you will get more water, but if you just kind of manipulate the tip and just stroke the page, then you will get the least amount of water, and that's what we need. For colour books, you don't want a lot of water. So you can do it two ways. You can scratch colour, and then you can put a piece of tracing paper between the pages and leave it, or you can then come back and do that. So, oops, I've taken out one colour. So I keep my Derwent pastel pencils, and I keep all my pencils in these Derwent art bags, and these are the sleeves that you kind of clip into a file system. There's the clips, but I kind of use them loose quite a lot because I have them in colour order. So I have my greys at the back, and then I have them in number order normally. I do like this particular order, although I have put my white at the bottom. So I have white, yellow, and I have black at the back. Sometimes I change the colour order because I do like them in a certain order. Things make it easier for me. So I have white, then I have my coldest, lightest yellow, I have my warm yellows, and then this particular set goes into the fawns, whereas I would then go into oranges, reds, purples, pinks, purples, and then purple blues, greens, and then on the last side I have the greens, the olives and the browns, and then there's the browns and fawns at the top, the ochre colours, and at the back the cold greys and the black. And I like that particular order because it just makes, I know where things are, that's all. It's just a bit easy for me. But you have to put them in the colours that it's the colours that you like. So I'm working in the Daydreams, Hanna Karlzon. I've got 1 or 2 pages done. I like pale colours, pastel colours, and then I'll do bright colours, vivid colours. This is peerless. This is peerless. I think that's near colour 2s. This one's very bright. That's pastel pencil. There's a video on this, and that's scratching pastel and then using a damp brush. There's lots of other ones that I've done. That's the pastel. That's gouache. That's intense blocks, and I like the fact that you can get some really pale colours with intense blocks and use them as a watercolour. So again, I kind of like that way. So this is very similar. I'm going to scratch a little bit of colour, and then we're going to manipulate it out to give a watercolour effect. But you're using You can do this if you haven't got a very thin or light watercolour brush. You can use a rigger, but you do want a brush that will just give a constant amount of water, very damp, but you don't want a good whoosh of water, so a watercolour brush would be no good. Riggers are very good because they remain damp for a long time and you can manipulate the colour for quite a while. So I'll have to put these on my knee because I'm working from the sofa today because our kitten did an unmentionable and it was so bad I had to leave the studio. So I'm in the lounge. We do have an Alfie, so there could be a bark alert. So I kind of like the lavender colour and violet oxide 240. So these particular ones are the Derwents. And how I do it, I'll just show you. Do I want that one pink? Possibly. Looks more like a daisy, that one. We pick this particular one. It's a very small space, so I am literally putting a dot, just a dot. And again, this is an easy way to work. It's an easy way to work if you've got pulley hands. So I've got a damp baby wipe, twist the brush, and then we're just going to manipulate that colour out. So having a very pale pastel. You can make it a little bit darker if you wish. Let me get a green out. So this one is dark olive 520p, and again just a bit of colour at the bottom, twist to a point and then manipulate that round. Now these particular pastels, I've got a slightly different pigment to my original ones, that my vintage set, and I have to say the vintage set is more like a traditional set. So I'll zoom in so you can see a little bit better of what I'm doing. Hi Cheshire Cat, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Yes, that's a good name for him. It's not Cute Bungle that we normally love, and he's a bit naughty, shall we say. I mean, bless him, it wasn't his fault, but it did ruin the morning. So I'm going to zoom in, and so you have to bear with me a second because the tripod is at a funny angle. So we'll just see if this will. So I think we can quite well. So you can see that's a lovely soft pastel effect. So the next one would be here. So again, I mean, you can fill the whole space or you can just put a tiny little bit in. It's entirely however you want to colour. And then twist the brush to a point on a baby wipe. Now this is actually quite a fine space, is this? And you would do this with Neocolor 2s, Derwent art bars, Derwent watercolour pencils, Inktense pencils, inks blocks. It works all the same way. I think I might just see if I could get It's a little bit too damp, is that, for me? So with a small space like that, I do like my riggers. This is a nicer way to work. You just have that little bit more control, but I'm just looking for the last one. So if you don't have a water brush, you need to invest in some brushes. So I find that the Graduate Daler Rowney ones are quite nice, and I like the riggers, and the other one I have is a liner, and I do like the riggers because you get a really long point. That's the broken one. But if you have a tiny space, you want a tiny brush. So this 10-0 liner is perfect. So you've got some slightly bigger brushes. You've got a 2, and that's an Artmaster 55. I can't find the other Artmaster 55. But that's a rigger, and that's the Artmaster 55, so they're bigger. But basically I've got kind of a large, a medium and a small, and then I have a very small liner for tiny spaces. Oh, hi Piccola, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Anybody else popping in? Hi TT. So what I tend to do, and I'm just going to see if I can try to find out where I am. Right. So I just need to put the camera up slightly. So the rigger, you've got a bit more control and it's not as wet. Now this is very good quality paper, so you can get away with it. But the other way to do it is to use the long riggers like that. You don't really want another brush, because the ordinary watercolour brushes, they do, now I haven't got a point on here and I can't find my pencil sharpener, but again you can do this with an ordinary pastel, and all you're doing is scratching a little bit of colour. Now basically that's a pastel dust, but what we can do is we can twist the rigger, twist the brush and manipulate it. And you could use a blender to blend it first, but there's no real point. It's very quick, it's very easy, and what you've got, these gorgeous soft pastel colours. If you want brighter colours, put more colour down, but I always like this really nice, very delicate, almost watercolour effect, and yet you're using really vibrant colours. I might want a bit more colour in this one, I think. And twist on a baby white to a point and then manipulate that colour round. And the beauty of that is that it's a pastel, but it's now set. So this one I've just done, it's completely set. It's not a pastel anymore. It's not a watercolour, but it acts like a watercolour. So that's really, really easy to use. So I'm going to pick, I think that looks more like a daisy, that one. So I'm going to pick a yellow. Now you can use any pastels, any pastel pencils. As long as they're just pastels, this will work. As long as it's water based, this will work. This is quite a nice one. So the pink I used was P250 Lavender, and the green I used was dark green P52 Dark Olive, and this is P080 Marigold. So I just put a touch of marigold. I think I might do this one, and again you just want a touch of colour depending on how bright you want to be. I'll do another page in a second when I finish this one, because this will be very quick. It's really, really quick to do is this. And you get very soft, beautiful pastel shades. Sorry about the wobbly table. So I think I'll have a different green for that one. This one is P500 Ionian Green. Just scratch that little bit of colour in, twist the brush on a baby wipe to a point, and it's a lot easier with a water brush, but you must have one that doesn't give out too much water. And then you can manipulate it to a really nice watercolour. Very, very soft colours. And I missed a leaf. We have a leaf over here. Now you will find, if you're using a strong colour, which we're not here, that there will be colour on the end, because it picks up colour. So I'm just twisting to a baby wipe, so it twists back into a point again. I do like the olive, so I think I'm going to go back to the olive for this one. And as I say, you can put as much colour as you want, and I do this with Inktense pencils, and I normally use watercolour pencils like this as well. And the Neos work well like this. So I've forgotten to colour this one, so we'll show you what happens. So we'll manipulate all these. And I've picked up colour, so I can still colour that one. That's what I wanted to show. Bear with me a second. Sorry guys, I think Grandma's 96 and she's doing well, but I think she's a bit confused today. She's not normal. It's the first time ever, but the last week she's suddenly gone downhill. So scratch a bit of colour and away we go. So because I'm doing so many, every time I do this, I'm picking up a bit of colour. So if I wanted a real nice soft watercolour effect, I'd have to just clean the brush. But because this is just a practice, then I don't need to do that. And then there is a little bit of colour on there, just a very soft colour. So I can just manipulate that down. So the colour is very, very soft. I'm just a bit short to see the bottom of. Oh, because are you left-handed? Have you ever done calligraphy or hand lettering? I trained as a graphic designer in the late 70s, early 80s, where everything was done by hand. So it would take you a week almost to do a sentence. But we did have letter set, but most of it was done by hand. And we did a bit of calligraphy, but ours was mainly technical drawing. for designers. So, but the problem I have now is my hands don't work, so I can't do anything I used to do. And just, this is quite an easy way to work. But I am doing lettering, hand lettering and calligraphy. I can't do calligraphy because my hands aren't strong enough to hold anything, but I do hand lettering, and I've just started doing it on digital. I'm doing everything digital at the moment. All my art is changing to digital, even this, even scratching this. So all my art's gone digital. Let me just zoom down a little bit. I've lost my little thing, just bear with me. I don't mean to do that. I want to go down. Just go the wrong way. That's it. That's where I want to be. So again, twist it to a baby point. So we did very fine work. And when I did my degree, I was 50, so it's 55. It's 5 years ago when I did my art degree. I painted with a dog hair. Photorealism, so I've done my fair share of neat, tidy things. But it's canvases and again watercolouring, getting the tubes off a watercolour. By the time I've done that, I don't have the strength to hold the paintbrush, so that's why I do this. So I invented watercolouring, which is having this watercolour effect with a teaspoon of water. Or you can use a water brush, whichever's easy. So thanks for popping in, guys. I'm working my way around this little fox. I do like this colour. This is Marigold P080. I do have a few other Derwent, other pastel pencils, but because I'm in the UK and Derwent's here and it's the oldest pencil company on the planet, I've been doing it a long time, so I do like the Derwent products, but you have to find what you like and then that will become your fave. Oopsie. I have to forget not to keep wobbling the table. So that's the Ionian Grief P500, and if you want it a bit darker, put a little more colour. There's no reason why you couldn't do the whole leaf. I'll do that on a slightly different page, find another colour page, but I just want a little soft highlight. But this will work with the Inscribe, the little cheap pastels, children's cheap pastels, because all you're doing is just scratching a little bit of colour. And I always forget that little one there as well. There's one there and there's one there. So I'm still using the same green. Now there's a tiny amount of colour on this, not much. If you were doing a dark red, then you would have a lot. So then all I'm doing is just putting the brush, dragging it slowly, gently back, twisting as I go. And that brings your brush back to a point. And I do that with all paintbrushes, whether I'm working with oils, acrylics or inks, I always do that. So again, scratch, and just move that up slightly. Apologies, but I'm working on the my little table, courtesy of Bungle, our kitten. It was a very good boy, but he did an unmentionable and I had to leave the room. So I got thrown out of my own studio. So I've only been in there a short time. I've just realised that's why Kingo said, can you open a window? I've just realised that why you said about opening windows. I was just thought you meant, do the windows open in your conservatory? Duh. God, I'm a bit slow today. But I think because you know, I don't want them that colour, so I'm going to put that. Yeah, you see, you can mix colours. So I've made a boo-boo. Goodness me. I've put yellow and they're leaves, so I can put green over the top. And because that's a warm orangey yellow, I'm going to end up with an olive colour. If that yellow had been cold, I would have just had a bright green, but I've just made an olive colour there. Because an orangey yellow and blue make olive. And actually that's quite nice because it's a different olive to that. That's a dark olive and that's a light olive. I think we might have a different red colour in that one. Or a red orange, I think. So this one is Tangerine P110. And again, you can cheat and just do that. It's a very easy, simple way to work, is this. And so you've turned your pastels into a watercolour. And again, they're not a watercolour, but they act like a watercolour. And once they're dried, they're not a pastel anymore. They have reacted like a watercolour, and they are now set. So again, you can put some more orange round. And again, this works for traditional pastels, little fat pastels, professional watercolour pastels, neos. You scratch a bit of colour, manipulate it with a damp brush. You can do it with Inktense blocks, and you can do it with all sorts of others. I'm going to use like a different green as well, maybe. Oh, I'll have to make that olive again, won't I? So I put yellow down. And again, if you didn't have a green, you just put this and blue, but I think I use this in Ionian. And I will make the same green. Oh, hi Melody, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Anybody else popping in? Thanks for stopping by, guys. I'm using my pastel pencils, and this is the new set of Derwent, so that I do have a vintage set which I like slightly better because they're softer. They're almost like a traditional one. But I thought it'd be a little bit unfair to use those because you can't get them anymore. So these are the Derwent pastel pencils that you buy now, and they have 1 to 72, I think, and they're it's got the P on them. If you see them where it has a D, an F or a B, then it's a vintage set, and they are softer. These I would think are more like the Inscribe, the cheaper student grade pastels, and the traditional, the vintage set, which was made about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. That set is more like a pure pastel. They're very soft. And I think artists complained they were too soft, so Derwent changed the binder. And but I prefer the others. You can hear these scratching, you can't hear the others. The other set are thicker. These have an 7mm strip. Sorry, these have a 5mm strip, and these have a 4mm strip. So these are dull, and these came in tones. There were 30 shades. Sorry, 30 colours, and each colour had 3 shades: a light, a medium, and a dark. And they're very soft. They're a lot softer, and I prefer them. But as I say, it wouldn't have been fair because you couldn't have matched these colours if I'd have done them in those traditional colours. So I'm going to put a bit of orange around that one. So we've lost the bungle, but we've gained an Alfie. So Alfie is snoring. If you can hear that grumpy noise, that's Alfie. So again, and it's quite good because this pencil's quite blunt, so don't need to sharpen your pencils, which Tight Yorkshire Lass, I like that. Now I always used to use a knife to sharpen my pencils, but my hands are really bad. So I found one called a Comb Factory, and they make this pencil sharpener that has two steps. Step 1, and there's a little one next to the hole. You put the pencil in, and it takes off all the wood and leaves you just this big fat square of don't call it the stick, the strip of colour. And it works for all pencils. It takes the wood off and leaves the strip. Now I usually use them like that, and I'll show you one of mine. This is how I sharpen mine when I use a knife. I take a lot of wood off, and then I don't sharpen it to a point. I use the facets. When you make a flat edge, you always get a sharp edge, and eventually you can get a point. If you turn it, you can get a point. And I always sharpen my pencils like that, because ordinary pencil sharpeners, when you're twisting, you're turning the wood against the strip. And if you'll just sharpen your pencil to oblivion. So you need to take the wood off. Now, Derwent have brought out a fantastic little product called a sharpening guide, and it's a piece of plastic, and it sits in a little hold, and there's a little plastic side. So when you're flicking with your knife, and I use a Stanley knife, but you have to be very careful, the blade goes to the guide. Now I always use one, but as long as you're going to slip and you're not going to do any damage, that's how to use one. Never ever do them in, and never hold the end or do this. You want to be well away from the blade, and that goes for a Stanley blade or anything. But Derwent have brought out, they have actually got a knife in there. It's like a Stanley knife, and it has the sharpening guard. That's the only way really to sharpen a pencil, because anything that turns it round is trying to separate the wood from the strip, and that's the one thing you don't want to do. So that's how I normally do it. But I did find one pencil that, and I can't find it at the moment, and it makes a very sharp point. And I have used it. It means it makes a longer point. But normally I take the wood off. I don't think I've got one that's just got the wood off, because it's not long since I've bought it and I've stopped. See, most of mine look like this, because that's how I use them, and I don't sharpen the edge. If you wanted to make that to a point, you could do that with a blade, and you could keep the shavings, and you can make a watercolour with it. because it makes a lovely watercolour, does the pastels. Yeah, I don't have one that I've just taken to wood, I don't think. Because as I say, I don't normally sharpen them like that, because it's not particularly good for them. So, where are we going now? I like these pastel colours, these pale colours. I think that's an olive as well, so we'll put a little bit of olive in that one. And literally that's all you're doing. And you will do the same with Inktense pencils. There's quite a few videos that I've got. I think it's coming up to 600, and you will see this is normally how I work in a colour book, because you're using a tiniest amount of water and you're just scratching colour in rather than kind of pounding down all the time. So I think that little one is over there. Sorry about the Elf Master having a big snore. So again, this is the olive colour. So, and the other thing, you can scratch quite a few colours together if you really wanted to. You can scratch quite a few. So thanks for popping in, guys. I haven't missed anybody. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. Just having a bit of a play. Sorry, I keep knocking the table. And then if you just stroke down backwards, it's just going to knock. And that's giving you a very soft, really soft edge. So this is Pale Ultramarine P300, and I think these would look quite nice. So it basically is just a dot. Now I wouldn't normally use such a large brush on that, but it's done the job. It's just given it a very, very nice subtle colour. The other thing to do is, if you wanted a bit more colour, sorry, Alf is giving it some big Zs. Cobalt Blue P390, and because we're just using a tiny amount, the colour is going to be still soft but a little bit brighter. So get a nice little blue effect. And we have picked up blue, so if you go to another place, look, you've got blue. So you can still pick up colour. There'll be a little bit of pale blue in that one, very pale. So we could go over that one because it's very soft. Make that a bit more blue. I could wake Alfie up in a second. So just scratching a little bit of colour. It doesn't matter if you don't get it everywhere, because this is where you can manipulate it to where you want. So these are really soft, pale colours. So I'll zoom out a little bit. And the colours might sit that bit better. So they're very, very soft. Very pale and very soft. So let me just find another page. Something like sorry. We'll have an Alfie cam in a moment. Alfie is being an elf master. Oh, we've got some little birds here, look. Can we not snore, please? Alfie, can we not snore, please? Thank you, darling. You were snoring. Yes, you were. I'm just going to put my pencils on there because it's a bit annoying. So unfortunately I'm on my knee today, and if I turn around, this is the snoring culprit. There. Hello. Hello, Snorri. Alfie. Excuse me. Alfie. Stop snoring. This is the lazy boy. This is the lazy boy. Come here. Come on. Hello. Shall we have that end? Shall we have that end? That's a nicer end, isn't it? So this is Alfie. He was just a lazy boy. Scruffy. He's gone all scruffy again. Oh, hi Happy. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. Just having an Alfie moment. You're going to go back up there now? Thank you. It's just like a lump. Thank you, lump. You are such a lump. Are you funny, Alfie? Alfie funny? Alfie funny? Alfie funny? Alfie funny boy? Honestly, what a silly boy. You're not taking up the whole sofa. Thank you. I know I disturbed you, but you were snoring, Alf. Oh, that's our Alfie camp. So very quickly, we'll show what we do with this one. So we can take the same colours. We can take cobalt blue, and we can put cobalt blue there. And if you scratch, you know when you're scratching too much because you get dust. Oops, you get dust. And you don't want dust. So what we do now is we just get hold of that and manipulate it down. Now you could blow and some of that dust would disappear, but it's pure colour. So I am going for a bit of a watercolour effect here, so when it gets to the bottom really, I'll keep going, see how dark we get. It's not too strong, this one, so we're still getting quite a nice little watercolour effect. And we're just stroking that colour. So Yes, Alfie is. He's a naughty boy as well. He's a very naughty boy, is our Alfie. And now I want a kind of a Kingfisher Blue P380. And I think we'll have, again, just scratched around, and I'll zoom in a second. You can see, so you can go really soft, very pale, almost invisible colour, to some really quite strong colours. So you can get a watercolour effect. So again, I have blue, so I've got to squeeze, and the tiniest little bit came off, but not much. Again, I prefer this to watercolouring because you don't, all your colour goes on your page, and as a tight Yorkshire lass, I like that. So manipulate that and drag it down. It's a very strong colour, is this one. So you have a really nice effect. I do like that Kingfisher blue. I think I'm going to go for, have a look on our bright colours. The cadmium red. I think we'll have quite a lot, and you can get some really nice effects. So you can use these as a pastel, and again I've just touched that and that little bit of blue came off, so you do need to twist every time. So now this tomato, sorry, not the tomato, the cadmium red, and again push that round. So technically it's not a watercolour, so you can use this technique and use a blending tool, and you can get your highlights that way, but sometimes I don't really want to use a blending tool, so get some really nice effects. And again, twist to a baby, that little bit of pink came off there, and that's all you're wasting. So again, as a tight Yorkshire lass, I love the fact that you're not wasting a lot of colour. Now this is processed yellow. I'm not sure if I want yellow on there. Oh, we have a yellow beak, so we'll do a yellow beak. And you can see some little tiny bits of dust. And I love the fact that you've just been working with cadmium red, and you've got a water brush that will now do a beautiful yellow, and you're not wasting any paint. Normally when you've touched a red as strong as cadmium, you do get, it's difficult to get back. So again, I'm going to use that Kingfisher blue. Oh, wait a minute, we've got a green. We should have a turquoisey green. There's a cobalt turquoise, that looks quite interesting. And then we have cyan. It's a cornflower blue. Cobalt turquoise looks quite nice. So again, I'm going to put the colour around. And then manipulate with a brush. You get really nice, soft watercolour effects. And again, it's not a watercolour, but it reacts like a watercolour. So once you've done this, it's set. There's no nasty chemicals. You can use these gorgeous pastels and manipulate the colour where you want. You have a very nice effect. And turquoise. I think the, don't know what on that one. I think I want Kingfisher Blue. I've decided. Let's have a look for a purple. Pale ultramarine. I have a violet. Violet would be quite nice. So you can have real full-on colours. So we'll activate this, and then you can push it back to where you want. And the beauty of this is you can have a very large pastel, or you can have a blunt pastel pencil, but you can get in some really tiny spaces because you're using your brush. And that goes to a soft, almost invisible purple. So you can get really, really vibrant, strong colours, and you can also get really nice soft colours as well. And that was a little tiny bit of purple that's just come off the brush because I've twisted it. Now, some pastels will be slightly harder than others. The more expensive the pastel, the more pigment, and so the stronger the colour. So that's all I can say. Just bear with me 2 seconds, where are we? Oh, thanks Happy for stopping in, take care. So again, we've got this nice green. I do like this Kingfisher green, it's quite nice. So you can have very, very soft, delicate colours, or you can have really strong, vivid colours. And I love the fact that it's a watercolour effect and you've just got a bit of a damp brush. Now the #1 Derwent water brush I found to be the driest, but there might be more out there. I've used these for a number of years now. Things might have got a little bit better than they used to be. But I know a while ago they didn't have anything that was any good. So there's some quite strong colours here. So I'll just pan out, I'll just see how long I've been. Almost an hour. So that's the Derwent pastel pencil, so I'll pan out a little bit and you'll see how the colours look on the page. So they are quite strong. So that shows the versatility of a pastel, and as I say, you can do it with anything. So we've got that lovely pale, and we also got the very strong the very strong colours as well. So you can do quite a lot of different things, and that still didn't show you how strong, because I only put a little bit of colour. I could have put quite a lot of colour. So if I put the Kingfisher blue. The thing is, I don't like doing it on there though, because I like paler colours. See if I've got a practice page left. Let me have a look. That was done in ordinary pastels. That was done with pastels, and that was done with pastel pencil. But we could do this little beetle here. So if you filled the entire shape with colour, you have a very strong, vibrant colour. Very, very strong colour. So you can get very, very strong colours as well as very, very pale colours. And that was the first play, I think, with pastels. Let's see, I find the page. So I just thought I'd show you how to use any kind of pastels as a watercolour. Thanks for watching.